Last night at the Kennedy Center in D.C., the audience vigorously booing Vice President J.D. Vance. That's just part of the increasingly public backlash to Trump's second-term agenda. In North Carolina, a fiery crowd confronting GOP Congressman Chuck Edwards at a town hall event last night.
I believe that the president is very supportive of Ukraine. We should abolish the U.S. Department of Education. The decisions need to be made. Like him or not, Elon Musk has brought a lot of really smart people to Doge. I feel like this is not productive with everybody yelling at me. I mean, if you want to hear, you certainly will have the right in the next election to cast your vote based off of what you hear coming from me now.
That was inside of the venue. Outside, furious constituents chanting as well. This is the latest in a series of town hall confrontations between GOP lawmakers and voters. But the most surprising objection to Trump's policies just might be this one. Elon Musk's company Tesla sending a letter to the White House pleading for an end to the trade war, writing that Trump's actions are hurting the electric car manufacturer. Tesla joining many other American companies in adjusting their 2025 outlook due to Trump's erratic approach. It comes amid Wall Street fears about a potential recession. Compare the stock market in the first year of Trump's first term, which continued a rise that started under Obama, giving credit where credit is due. Now let's compare that to what's happening under Trump this time around amid his escalating tariffs. That is a brutal collapse. Politically, this is dangerous territory for Trump, whose allies have downplayed and deflected criticisms about the current state of the economy. The latest comes from J.D. Vance. In a new interview, Vance inadvertently echoing one of the biggest Republican gaffes of the last 2 decades. Then GOP presidential candidate John McCain claimed on the brink of the Great Recession that, quote, the fundamentals of the economy were strong.
Our economy, I think, still, the fundamentals of our economy are strong.
I think the fundamentals of the economy are actually quite strong right now.
Joining me now is Robert Reich, former labor secretary under President Clinton, and Michelle Goldberg, New York Times columnist and MSNBC political analyst. My thanks to both of you. Michelle, first, those town hall confrontations we were just looking at, they appear to be getting more intense. So what is next if the Republicans continue to run scared and they don't willingly meet their constituents where they are?
Frankly, I don't think it's just Republicans. I mean, the amount of rage and despair out there among the millions and millions and millions of people who didn't vote for Donald Trump is really hard to overstate. And they're angry at Republicans, absolutely. A lot of them are, frankly, also pretty angry at Democrats. I mean, especially today with the Senate voting to pass this really disgraceful continuing resolution. I think that there is a desperate hunger among a lot of people for new leadership. And so in some ways, you can compare this moment to the Tea Party moment, which you both saw a lot of really raucous town halls. You also saw a lot of primaries. And I think that we're heading towards both of those things.
House Speaker Mike Johnson has unveiled a short-term funding bill that would avert a shutdown at the end of the week and keep the government running through the end of September. The Democratic leaders say they are a hard no. The bill isn't the only thing receiving pushback. Protests against DOGE and the Trump agenda are getting louder. Anti-Elon Musk demonstrations have erupted across the country. There's a protest at a Tesla dealership in Chicago that had a heavy police presence. In Michigan, more than 10,000 people turned out for a rally with Senator Bernie Sanders as part of his national Fighting Oligarchy tour, while Senator Elizabeth Warren rallied a crowd of more than 3,000 in Texas.
Donald and Elon are bullies. Like bullies everywhere, Donald and Elon are afraid of people who won't bend the knee. They are afraid of pushback. And we are here to push back.
Joining me now, Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts. Senator, 3,000 people in Texas. It is not a midterm. It is not a presidential election. Your sense of why they're showing up?
Look, people are showing up because Donald Trump last Tuesday night
said that he's doing all the things he's doing because that's what the American people have voted for. And I think people are showing up to say, man, we didn't vote for this. We didn't vote for Elon Musk, and we didn't vote to take away nursing home care from our seniors. We didn't vote to undercut our teachers, our students, and our public schools. We didn't vote to say that little babies are not going to get access to the health care that they need. People all over this country are saying we want a government that works for us, not just for a handful of billionaires. That's what this rally was about. That's what Bernie's out there rallying around. And here's the best part. Democrats are actually showing up to listen to people, to rally with people, while Republicans are hiding and being told by their leadership, don't go out in public, don't have any town halls, because you might hear how much people don't like what you're doing.
I'll tell you what was not rallying today, the stock market. Can you explain for those of us who may not be super invested in the market itself, why it matters as an indicator?
So think of the stock market as a flashing light, at least for how investors and economists who are looking at kind of the long-range economic trajectory that this country is on. So let's start out. Donald Trump said back when he was running for office, he would do one thing on day one, and that was lower prices for families. His words, not mine. So he's now been there. We're heading into our 8th week. And what has he actually done? And the answer is nothing to lower prices. But he sure as heck has created a lot of economic chaos and things that will actually increase prices for families. So he's played red light, green light with tariffs, on again, off again, with whether or not we have tariffs against Canada, tariffs against Mexico. He and his co-president, Elon Musk, have fired or attempted to fire, because most of this is not legal, thousands and thousands of people who keep airplanes safe up in the air, people who test our drinking water to make sure it's okay to drink, thousands of veterans who work for the federal government, and has basically tried to shut down a couple of agencies and shut down anyone that is investigating any of Elon Musk's businesses.
We're back in New York and Atlanta. Jacob, you take it away.
Nicole, we're back here with Sarah, Abby, and Stephanie, 3 very brave women who have come forward to talk about being in limbo right now after a judge ordered them returned to work at the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, but the Trump administration has called that, Caroline Levitt, I want to make sure I get this right, entirely unconstitutional and completely absurd. I would love to play for you a little something that President Trump has said about people who are in your position who have been fired from the federal workforce. Let's take a look at that.
What responsibility do you feel to the civil servants who have now lost their jobs? Many of them worked at the Department of Education during the first term.
Sure, I do. I feel very badly, but many of them don't work at all. Many of them never showed up to work. Many of them never showed up to work.
Abby, let me go to you first. We heard President Trump say there, many of them, speaking of people in your situation, fired federal workers, don't work at all. Many of them never showed up to work. Many of them never showed up to work. Your response?
I'd love to see the data that he's pulling that information from, because I went to work every day, my colleagues went to work every day, and our coalitions that we worked with would have known and noticed if we weren't working and actively providing them with the services that we were hired to do.
What's it like, Stephanie, for the man who's ostensibly in charge of your employment, albeit at a very high level, speak about the work that you and your colleagues have done in that way?
It's frustrating to not be seen as valuable. I think the work we do is, very great for the American people. The whole goal is to help protect and save lives, and to be said that we just didn't show up to work, to me, says that he felt like we didn't show up for the American people.
Might any of you consider not returning to work in the federal government categorically because of the experience that you guys have been going through? I mean, are you confident you're not going to be fired again, even if you are reinstated?
Oh, we will be fired again.
I think the expectation is that we will probably be fired again. I personally would love to do my job, and serving the American people is what I have gone to school for. It is part of my ethos. Is I want to, you know, it's my American duty to serve the American people. I feel really strongly about that. You know, a piece of this country's ethos is ask not what your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country. And I think that federal workers and all three of us are the embodiment of that core value that we've had in this country for decades.
I know Nicole Wallace agrees, and I know Nicole wants to jump back in. Nicole?
I just want to pull you in on that, Eddie. I mean, what a perfect segue. We ended the hour with Ambassador McFaul talking about American values. They're not just a mushy pot of extras for when times are good. They're what sustains a country that is just an idea when times are bad.
Oh, absolutely. So this is not just simply about waste and fraud. We need to ask, what are the values that are motivating Elon Musk and Donald Trump in this moment to cut, to do all of these things, and, you know, all of these things that are harming everyday ordinary folk, as we see here with Stephanie and Abby and Sarah. So look, it's Lenten season. I'm thinking about chapter 13, verse 15 of Matthew chapter 13, 15. For the people's heart becomes calloused. They can hardly hear, and they've closed their eyes. There's something about the callousness of the moment.
So the protests, guys, they keep on happening. MAGAs are turning on Trump. Regular public servants are turning on Trump. Politicians are. Because, again, there's a difference between a politician trying and failing, right? There have been politicians that have come into office with difficult circumstances, and it's forced them to make different decisions. Now, sometimes they're still not necessarily honest to their platforms, but with Trump, it was out and out lies. And the thing is, his lies are affecting everyone. Remember how he's like, 24 hours, I'll have the whole thing solved in Eastern Europe. And now he's saying he was sarcastic. And remember, with prices, it was like, I'm going to lower prices. I'm going to do it right away. And when pressed by people saying, well, sir, one, these tariffs you're talking about, remember, before he won, the tariffs you're talking about will likely increase prices. And even if you don't do those, a president only has so much power to lower or increase or whatever prices, because, you know, it's not like you own the entire economy, right? And so Trump said, no, don't worry about it. That's just liberal nonsense. Prices will be lower. Cheap eggs. You'll be swimming in cheap eggs. And Trump comes in, and everything he's done, he has made it worse. Everything. And so that's why people are mad, because what they did vote for were cheaper prices. They did vote for some action at the border. They did. They voted for cheap prices, global peace, and some action at the border. They're getting a little bit at the border. They are getting more expensive prices, and they're getting Trump more and more involved in foreign wars. This is why people are pissed.